What's up everybody, Matt and Maran here for another car review. This is of course the 2021 Chrysler Pacifica all-wheel drive. Huge thanks to Chrysler for providing me here with the refreshed Pacifica to review for you guys today. So about the 2021 Pacifica, well, there's a couple big changes. First, the styling has changed, and then they've also added all-wheel drive as an option, which now makes this the only all-wheel drive minivan that you can get with the V6, since the Toyota Sienna has now gone with a 4-cylinder. And so it's a really unique combo. You can also get a plug-in hybrid for the Pacifica still, if you're okay with having front-wheel drive. That one's only front-wheel drive. But anyway, as far as the looks go here on the new Pacifica, so they really sharpened up the front end, and it gives it a much more assertive look than before, I think. So you have these new smaller headlights that have the sharp LEDs around them there. It look great. You have a much larger grille here than you had on the pre-refresh Pacifica, and so that's a really nice look. And you can also get many of the elements blacked out if you'd like in certain trims. And then you have that lower front bumper there, which also has a little bit more character to it than it did before. And I think it's a really nice and sharper look up front there. Coming down to the sides, you have a wide variety of wheels to pick from here, and these ones on this Pinnacle trim, which is the top trim, that one has, you know, this chrome platinum look to it, and so I really like the way you kind of have the dual tone of the wheels there. You also have these platinum chrome mirror caps and also the trim around the windows and everything. And then going out to the back, that's also where they've made some really nice improvements. I love how they now have the wide full width taillights there that have the LED that connects in the middle, and it's a really nice look combined with the nice prominent Chrysler badge there. And then you know, otherwise, you know, the tailgate and everything is pretty similar. Rear bumper's pretty similar to what it was on the pre-refresh, but overall I think that those taillights really modernized this nicely, and so I think from just about every angle it's a very nice and elegant looking minivan. Right, for the interior in the 2021 Pacifica here, well, this Pinnacle trim, again being the top trim, is really impressive, and they really up the ante here for the whole minivan segment, honestly. So I mean, first you can see you have these caramel Napa leather seats, which are really just so nice with the quilting here you have on them, and they're also heated and ventilated seats, which is great. And you know, you also have memory functions for the seats here, and even the seat controls, you see there's some metal around them, and so that all gives us a very high quality feel. The white piping on the seats, everything just feels really, you know, upmarket. And they're also very soft, comfortable seats too. They also have adjustable lumbar, but I really love these seats. You could, you know, drive across the country in these things and be totally comfortable. Moving on to the steering wheel here in the Pacifica, it is a really nice wheel. I like the design of it. You know, you have this metal little ring around the inside of the rim here, as well as the stitching. I could see this ring, since it does actually feel like it's metal, I could envision that, you know, being pretty hot in the summer sometimes. So you know, one little thing there, but otherwise I think it looks great. It is a really thick wheel too, though. I'm kind of shocked just for a normal minivan to have a wheel that's as thick as like a BMW M wheel or something. It's like a little too sporty, honestly, in my opinion, but I think it, you know, still gives you a decent grip. It's just a handful, that's for sure. But a great 9-3 grip, just a few buttons here on the front of it, nice and simplified. And I love how the FCA products, you have these rockers on the back of the wheel that allows you to change your volume and tuning without cluttering up the front of the wheel here. And overall, I think it's a really nice wheel. The gauges here in the Pacifica are also really beautiful gauges. Honestly, I think as far as analog gauges go in the past few years, I think these Chrysler gauges are some of the prettiest and most soothing gauges, in my opinion. Just with that blue glow you have behind them, and the little notches there in blue, I just think it looks really classy and just so elegant. I love the way those look. I also like how you have the nice large digital portion in the middle there, which will display just about anything you want. You know, if you're running navigation through the factory nav, you have that. You can also, you know, go through your various temperatures and things. Coming over to the side of the dashboard here, I just have to add first that I love the wood trim you have here around the instruments. It's not a lot, but it is really nice. You also see it on the doors here a little bit, and the caramel stitching again looks really great, and this is all pretty soft and plush. But anyway, the main thing here is this new uConnect 5 10.1 inch display, which is the new generation software and a brand new screen here for FCA, and it's a really high resolution display. It's actually 3 times the resolution as the old uConnect 4 screen. It's also 5 times faster, so everything is very snappy. And so all this stuff on the home screen here, which is a new addition to even have have a home screen for these, it's all customizable. So whatever things you use the most, you can customize, you know, the positioning of all those things. You also have this little top row of toggles. You can customize those and, you know, what you have displayed there. So everything can be within one touch that you use on a regular basis if you'd like. There's also driver profile, so you can have this whole setup saved to you, and then if you have another driver come in, they can do their profile and they can have everything changed around to whatever their preference is. And so that's great that you can, you know, custom tailor that to each individual driver. And so, you know, just going through media and stuff is very easy. You have volume and tune knobs that are nice and large, and you know, going through all that's easy. It also does have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto that's wireless too, and that's awesome. So once you pair your phone up the first time, every time you get in here, it automatically connects. No need to plug in your phone, and that is a super nice feature, and really great they have that. By the way, this 10.1-inch display is standard on all Pacificas, which is another really nice thing that they include that as standard. And then you have your navigation, which is Maps by TomTom, works pretty well. And you have all the cool little apps as well with this screen. So for the family-oriented stuff here, the main thing is the fam cam you can get. And so this Pinnacle, that comes standard. And that's a really cool touch because you can see there's a little camera there in between the second and third rows. And it's at a bird's eye view, so you can see even like rear-facing child seats. You can see, you know, your child there in those seats and get a great view. And you can actually zoom in on individual seats. So if you want to get a bigger view of one of them, you can. And even at night, that gives you like an infrared type view too. So it doesn't just work in the daytime. And so that's really a nice little feature to have there. This system also has Amazon Alexa built in, so that you can you know, control whatever Alexa enabled devices you have through the car here, which is a very cool touch. And this system is also paired up with this Harman Kardon 19 speaker stereo, which has a 10-inch subwoofer and really gives you a dynamic sound experience too. But yeah, I mean, this whole system just works really great. It is very snappy and quick, and the only minor complaint that I've discovered so far is that whenever you click on you know, like one of the areas like the maps, for example, just clicking on that doesn't expand it. Now you could either do this tiny little square up here and that expands it, or you can just, you know, in this bottom row of menu buttons, you can just hit the nav that way. But you know, it would be nice if you could just click on that thing and it takes you straight to that instead of having to do a tiny little area instead. But anyway, aside from that, I love this screen. It's a huge improvement, and I think it's one of the best screens out there as far as ease of use and stuff. Coming down, like I said, volume and tune knobs, a few buttons here for your driver assist stuff. You have your rotary shifter still, which is this really nice metallic feeling knob and feels great. And then just a few other buttons here for your climate control, which is nice and simplified. And then that's it. But now, you know, with previous pre-refresh Pacificas, you kind of had this whole area beneath that climate control is like this open thing. Now, to make it feel a little bit more like an SUV, you have this actual console now. And so there's all kinds of storage. They actually increased the storage by a lot here in the new Pacifica. So you'll first see the Blu-ray drive here and also another USB jack in that area. But then you open up this whole little bin and you'll see a wireless charging pad, as well as two more USB jacks, two more USB-C jacks, and an auxiliary jack, another little spot right around there. And so that's a good amount of space. You also have two cup holders that are a good size, and I like the rubber notches to hold your stuff in place really well. But then there's this massive bin, or tray I guess I should say, underneath that whole shifter area. And so that still does give you a lot of storage. Now it's not quite as open as just having this whole thing wide open, because you do have to kind of reach down there to grab things, and it's a little bit harder to access, I think, than just having this whole thing wide open. But you know, because you have so much more storage with this additional bin, I think it's totally worth the little bit of a compromise there. In this area, you do also have some leather that gives you a little bit of padding by your knee area. But unfortunately, I don't know if this is just a pre-production model or what, but this is a little loose, and I wish there was a little more padding behind the leather, because if you push down on it, you end up with hard plastic behind it. And so I do wish that that maybe had a little bit more foam or something in between there to make it a little bit cushier, but still a really nice inclusion. They are padding that kind of stuff a little bit now. And you know, there are a few other places if you look for it where you can find some cheap plastics, but overall it does feel very premium and well worth the over $50,000 price tag this Pinnacle version has. And then you have this center armrest, which is very plush. That has a nice thick layer of padding to it, and so great for resting your elbow on there. And you open that up, and then you'll see a fairly large bin here. I mean, it's pretty deep. They actually said this is longer and wider than before, so they did open this up some more, and and you'll see also a power outlet and another USB jack and another USB-C jack in there. So great to have all that, and so just a really large amount of space there. You also have pockets in the doors with a bottle holder and this other little second pocket that's small up higher in the door here, but nice to have all that stuff. And so I mean, as far as storage space goes, just for the front seat passengers already, it's really, really good. Backseat space in the Pacifica, of course, being a minivan, you have lots of space. So of course the doors are powered here, and then once you open those up, you'll see here in the Pinnacle here, you have the captain's chairs there. They do have the stow and go capability, which is great, and so that's a trademark Chrysler thing here, to have those seats be able to fold into the floors there. And so those seats do slide forwards and backwards and recline. They're just as comfortable as the front seats, and maybe even a little bit more comfortable, because you can get here with the Pinnacle, you get pillows. They're actual lumbar support pillows there that come with the car, and those are very classy, and that's something you see in like Rolls Royces and Bentleys. And so to have that here in the Pacifica is a really cool touch. You also see there's little pockets in the doors there for a bottle holder, and other storage stuff you'll see when you look forward. There's a nice deep cubby here for phones and things like that. And then there's a huge tray that you can pull out underneath there, and so that's way bigger than it has been in the past, and it actually comes out further than it did before. And so you have two cup holders built into there. You also see a huge cubby that you can see they do store the stow and vacuum hose in there, but you can of course take that out and use it for whatever you'd like. So that's all great. And the way those seats are set up, it is very easy to walk through the middle there. Of course, you have plenty of space, especially with those armrests up. As far as getting into that third row, you know, there's a couple of ways you could just walk through the middle. You can also flip that second row out of the way there with that little handle right there. And once you're seated in that second row though, I'm 5'9", me sitting behind myself. I mean, with the seat all the way back, I have, I don't know, probably 5 inches of legroom to spare. Plenty of space there. And then if you even move the seat all the way forward, I slid it so that my knees can be resting right up against the seat back there. So you can have it just as versatile as you would like, you know, it's whether you want it to be, you know, more space in the third row or more space in the second row. Although you're not going to be wanting for space, honestly, once you get into that third row, because first off, it's power recline, which is really cool. So you can give yourself a little bit of extra space there by leaning back if you'd like. So even sitting with the seat, the second row all the way back, I still have, I'd say, a solid 2 inches of legroom. Again, being 5'9", plenty of headroom as well, by the way. And then if you do put that second row up again so that my knees are touching, then behind, you know, that third row, I have, I don't know, 5 inches of legroom to spare. And that's really what you're not going to be getting in a lot of other SUVs. To have that much space in a third row, you could easily fit someone over 6 feet tall in the back of this thing and be totally fine as far as space goes. One thing to note though about the third row is that you're going to want to be sitting on the passenger side of the third row, because that's where you'll see two cup holders and a little cubby, as well as a USB jack and USB-C jack. You do not get those things on the driver's side third row seat, unfortunately, but you'll see also that third row, they have their own air vents, of course. They have a nice little extra moonroof in addition to this huge panoramic moonroof you get for the second row and in the front seats here, which is really nice and expansive. And so it gives us a very airy feel, especially with the light colored interior. Also, another thing to note is you have the uConnect theater here, and that's for those second row occupants. They can flip up those screens, and in addition to watching Blu-rays, you know, they can also control some of the stuff like climate and stuff back there. They also have a bunch of games. They added a few more games than they had in the past. So you now have chess and a few others there, and so it's great to have all that. The only thing I'll say about that screen there for the uConnect theater is that it's not the most responsive. There's a little bit of a lag you can see as I'm moving my finger around or touching icons. It gives it, you know, a second or so delay for each of those actions. I wish it was just as quick as the screen up front here. Unfortunately, that's not the case. But you know, I think most people will probably just be watching movies back there, and for that there's going to be very limited interaction. So probably not a huge deal, but just one little thing to note. Trunk space in the Pacifica is also pretty good. So I mean, it's really a deep space there, as you can see, and part of that is because you have the stow and go capability there, which is power fold, by the way, so you can put those third row seats totally flat into the floor there if you'd like. But with that third row up, I mean, you can see it just is so deep with that well down there. And you also see on the left hand side there, that is where your vacuum is at for the stow and vac feature, and so that's not going to be usable for anything else, unfortunately. But I mean, you have so much space there. It's going to be a lot better than a 3-row crossover SUV, for example, which usually doesn't have a well that deep. And so I think that's where you can have the ability to stack a lot more stuff in the back of the Pacifica here over some of those SUV competitors. All right, so it's time to go for a drive. So the Pacifica here has this nice Chrysler key, which has And just the Chrysler script there on the front of it. And then on the back here, you have some metal buttons and several buttons here to control the doors, the hatch, all that kind of stuff. Really a nice key that has a nice weight, nice metal trim around it here. I really like this key a lot. But of course it is keyless access, keyless entry, and push button start. So you just leave the key in your pocket, hit the engine start button, and it starts right up. All right, so setting off in the 2021 Pacifica. So the first thing that I think I'm noticing is the visibility is excellent. Of course, you have a nice high seating position like you'd want in a minivan here, but I mean, the glass is just huge here in the front, and it really drops down low, so you have a great view forward. Nice little A-pillar window here. The mirror's off onto the doors, so you don't have any, obstructions there. So, I mean, excellent forward visibility. And view out of the back is also really good. It's a little bit better if you don't have those headrests up, but even with the headrests up, it still is going to be totally fine. It's a massive rear window there, and so that is also something that's gonna be a little bit better than a crossover or something. But other things to note here, so steering is nice and light, which is what you want for a minivan too. I mean, it definitely has a little bit of heft to it, but it feels really good and very appropriate for this type of vehicle. Other things that I'm noticing here, so brakes are very easy to be smooth with. They start to bite right towards the top of the pedal, but it isn't too lurchy or anything. It's very good. But one thing that is a little bit more jumpy is the throttle response. It's like right after you barely get into the gas, and it starts picking up quickly. It feels very eager to accelerate, and so if you're someone who's often in a hurry, you'll probably enjoy this, because it just means that you're not waiting around for the transmission to downshift or anything. It seems like it is like always ready to go. You have a 9-speed automatic transmission here. You have lots of gears to pick from, and so it's able to always be right where you want it to be, and feels like it always is pretty ready to go. I mean, obviously, you only have a V6. It's not like it's some kind of race car or anything, but it gives you strong power and gives it to you very immediately, which is, I think, what a lot of drivers are going to want, especially, again, if you find yourself in a hurry, trying to merge, things like that. It's nice to have that power very eager right, beneath your foot there. Also, handling on these gentle corners so far, it's minivan appropriate, so it's very soft and smooth, and this road's also nice and smooth, but, it's very comfortable, honestly. There's no fancy suspension setup or anything. It's just, a normal suspension. They just tuned to be nice and soft. But I was on a couple of corners earlier, and it does handle itself really well, though. And just cruising on a main road now. One thing they actually did is they said they made it a little bit quieter in here for the 2021 models. And so you have acoustic glass in the front, also for the front windows here, but also the windshield. And even the second row glass there is a little bit thicker. And so they say it makes it 6% easier to have a conversation. It's a little bit quieter. There's no exact decibel numbers that they gave, but just know that it's going to be a little bit quieter. It's probably not a world's difference over before, but it's a nice improvement nonetheless. And yeah, so just cruising on a main road here. I mean, the roads are wet, so you have a little bit more road noise here, but it feels pretty, again, just relaxed and refined. But let's turn out onto this main road here and see how it accelerates. And here we go. Nice traction from the all-wheel drive system. And it gets up and moves really nicely. So we're running the 3.6 liter Pentastar V6 engine. It does 287 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque in this application. And there's no 0 to 60 times given, but it's not really important for a minivan. But what you should know is that it's just going to give you strong V6 power, which now that the Sienna has gone with a hybrid 4-cylinder, the only other option as far as V6 minivans goes is the Odyssey, really. And with that, you're not going to be able to get the all-wheel drive like you have in this. Speaking of that all-wheel drive system, though, I'm sure that's one of the main draws of this new Pacifica for a lot of people. And so it's a mechanical all-wheel drive system, and it can detach itself and run just in front-wheel drive mode if it needs to, but it's very intelligent about when it turns on the all-wheel drive system, which is, of course, automatic. There is no intervention needed by the driver, but the all-wheel drive system does intelligently react to the driver and the driver input. So they said that it can be all kinds of things can activate the all-wheel drive system, whether it's just the windshield wipers detecting that it probably is raining and you might want that extra traction. It also could be triggered by evasive maneuvers where it thinks you're going to need the extra stability of the all-wheel drive. It can send some power there instantly for that kind of stuff. And then, of course, if it just senses that it's a low traction scenario, then it can send as much power as it needs to the back. They even said, like, for example, if the front wheels are on ice or something, you can actually send all the power to the back to get you over, that snow or ice or something that the front wheels might be encountering, to help give you the momentum to get out of something you're stuck in or whatever. And so it's really nice that it's, a very intelligent all-wheel drive system and a mechanical all-wheel drive system, since in the Sienna now it's just going to have the hybrid component, and that's like an electric all-wheel drive system, much more limited in its capacity versus what you have here with a real mechanical all-wheel drive system. But because it can disconnect that rear drive shaft there and give you that front-wheel drive capability as well, that means that you're, whenever it's a warm summer day and you don't need all-wheel drive, you can still get front-wheel drive like fuel economy. I mean, you might have a little bit of a penalty because you have the extra weight of the all-wheel drive system, but as far as, it doesn't have to drive those rear wheels, and so you can still have pretty good fuel economy and you don't miss out too much, again, unless you're using that all-wheel drive. Also, while we're talking about all-wheel drive traction and whatnot, another thing related to that is the tires. And so the tires here, you have standard 235 wide tires, and you can go up to 245s depending on which option package you get and stuff. But one really cool thing is you can get self-sealing tires, and this is one of only a few vehicles in the whole automotive industry that actually gives you a self-sealing tire option. Michelin offers one, and another company does as well, and both are optional here on the Pacifica. And so that really gives you great peace of mind, because those self-sealing tires, if they do get a puncture, they can actually seal around that puncture and allow you to retain some air pressure there so that you can drive similar to a run flat tire, but it's even evolved beyond that, so that if you do happen to get a puncture or something, you can continue to drive and get to where you need to go and stuff, and it's going to be totally fine with that tire, which is really impressive technology, and something honestly I wish that was available in every car and every tire. Hopefully it comes eventually for other things. It gives you a lot of extra peace of mind, especially whenever you're on long trips and things like that, to know you're not going to have any kind of fiasco with a flat tire, and that peace of mind is really valuable. Alright, so we're coming up to a couple of mild corners here. The roads are a little damp, and obviously this is a minivan, so I'm not going to reveal like a sports car, but just to see how it feels. It has a very just comfortable, setup, and so you do feel there's a little bit of, lean there. It's not going to be as sharp as maybe some SUVs might be, but for a minivan, it's very, very appropriate, and I think you're going to be totally fine. It'll be, meet your expectations and probably exceed them, honestly, because even though this is a minivan, it still handles much better than minivans from even just, a few years ago, and so I think that's all very good. If you're curious about curb weight, with the all-wheel drive system now, they are a little bit heavier. So this one weighs about 4,883 pounds. If you go for a front wheel drive version, you're around 4,500 pounds. So about a 300 pound weight gain here, maybe 350 with the all-wheel drive system. But I don't think anyone's gonna really care. It doesn't feel like it's extremely heavy or anything like that. It just feels nice and soft, just like how you're probably going to want a minivan to feel. One other important thing to mention about the Pacifica here is the safety features, and it is impressive. They give you all the essential stuff as standard. I mean, all the stuff that you're going to want, especially in a family vehicle like this. So it has full speed adaptive cruise control as standard, which actually will go down to a complete stop and do that inching up in traffic for you and stuff. That is standard. Blind spot monitoring is standard. Lane departure warning is standard. Automatic emergency braking with pedestrian detection. All those types of things. And I think there's over 100 standard safety features with this vehicle, and so it's really impressive, from a safety standpoint, though, that you don't have to pay extra for that stuff in the Pacifica. They just give it to you as standard. So every Pacifica has all the great safety tech that you're looking for, and that combined with the all-wheel drive system, really makes this feel like it is the safest minivan in its segment, just because of all those assistance features. You also have the automatic parking assist, all that kind of stuff. That with the security of all-wheel drive, with the security of the self-sealing tires, which again I can't emphasize enough. I think that is really cool they're offering those. I mean, secure is probably the one big word I could say about this whole driving experience in general, whether it's the safety stuff, the driving experience itself as far as how it rides and everything. It just all feels very comfortable, calm, and reassuring in every single way. And so it's a really nice bit of solace just driving the Pacifica here, with everything else these days trying to go sportier and more aggressive with all these SUVs and stuff. Having a minivan that's just soft, comfortable, smooth, refined, It's all very soothing, and I think it's kind of therapeutic to drive the Pacifica. All right, so now I'm out on the highway in the Pacifica here, which is where I'm sure many Pacifica owners will be spending a lot of time, and it's a really nice highway cruiser, of course. You have a nice, soft, smooth ride, and I'm also actually using the adaptive cruise control system right now, which is a really nice feature to have that, again, is standard and comes to a full stop. But one thing that this system is missing is any type of steering assist. So, that's something you can get with the competing vehicles now in their newest versions. Is it's nice to have that steering assist, if you're wanting a little bit of extra reassurance whenever you're going down the road. I personally like driving myself, so I have no problem not having that feature, but I just know that that is something to be competitive with the others out there. It would be nice to have some type of steering assist to add on to that adaptive cruise control system. So it's a little less advanced than some of the others, but I don't have an issue with it. But just one important thing I want to note for you guys: the adaptive cruise system I haven't tried out in stop and go traffic or anything, but out here on the highway it's also pretty smooth with applying the brakes and modulating your speed and stuff. It does that all very smooth, and so there isn't any jerkiness or anything like I sometimes encounter in some other competing systems. I didn't have EPA ratings when I filmed this, but they're available now, and it shows a very minor fuel economy penalty for the new all-wheel drive system. It'll do 17 mpg in the city, 25 mpg on the highway, and 20 combined. And a front-wheel drive Pacifica is only 2 better mpg on the combined cycle and in the city, and on the highway it's only 3 mpg better. So very minor differences between the two. If you do want something that's really fuel efficient, the Pacifica is still the only minivan to offer a plug-in hybrid. And so with that, you're going to get 30 miles of all-electric range, as well as 80 mpge, which is really impressive. That's assuming you plug it in, and get that full charge, and then just use the gas engine as well. But so it can be very fuel efficient. Unfortunately, you can't get all-wheel drive with that plug-in hybrid. But if you don't need the all-wheel drive, I really think the plug-in hybrid is a cool option, and I'm still surprised that all the competing vehicles in this segment don't offer that. And it's awesome that Chrysler was way ahead of the curve on that one. But anyway, the last thing to mention is the pricing here in the Pacifica. So they are a little bit more expensive than some of the competitors. So this is starting for a front-wheel drive version at $36,500 roughly. And then if you do want all-wheel drive on these lower trims, it's about a $3,000 upcharge. As you go higher up, it gets to be a little bit less, like $2,500 more for all-wheel drive. But anyway, so for the cheapest all-wheel drive Pacifica, you're going to be looking at about $39,500. This Pinnacle trim here with the all-wheel drive, basically fully loaded up, about as high as you can get outside of getting the plug-in hybrid. This one, as tested, is in the $54,000 range. So it does jump up quite a bit, from those, just under $40,000 price tags. But, I think that with all the nice luxury features you get here in the Pinnacle version, the brand new tech that's really impressive. There's so many nice touches to this that obviously it's just going to come down to what your preferences are as far as what you want. Because a lot of these nice things like the infotainment system, you don't have to spend 50 grand for that. You can get that even, as standard in a regular Pacifica. And if that pricing does sound a little high to you, you still have the option of getting the Chrysler Voyager, which does start in the high 20s and does have the older looks of the pre-refresh Pacifica, but that is going to be an option as well if you do want a minivan under $30,000, and that's a little bit more affordable for people. But overall, I'm really impressed with the Pacifica here. For what it is, a nice family vehicle. It's nice and smooth, soft, comfortable ride. All of the great safety tech you want. It has it all. So I think it's going to be a very good option for families out there. I have not driven all the newest minivans yet to compare to this, but stay tuned. On this channel, I will be reviewing the new Sienna and the new Odyssey, and I will be comparing them to this as well. So if you're in the market for stuff like this, definitely subscribe and stay tuned for all the other competing minivans and those reviews. But anyway, yeah, I really like the Pacifica here, and so let me know your thoughts on the Pacifica in the comments below. Huge thanks to Chrysler for providing me here with the Pacifica to review for you guys today. And anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Take care.